Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Christina McNeil, and this is MB12 for Thursday, September 6, 2012, broadcasting from the Cable 12 studios on Robinson Road. In news tonight, the majority of homeowners may be ineligible to receive assistance under the new mortgage relief plan. We'll tell you why. How immigration officials are making the work permit process a little smoother. The Foreign Affairs Minister says there is a real threat of foreigners replacing Bahamians in certain jobs. Former Education Minister appalled at the prospect of armed police officers on school campuses. And Bahamas and United States officials discuss anti-piracy protocols. We have those stories and much more coming up tonight. Your MB12 starts right now. Thanks for joining us. In just a few days, banks throughout the Bahamas will begin taking applications from homeowners seeking assistance through the government's mortgage relief plan. With more than 4,000 mortgage accounts in arrears in the Bahamas, Chairman of the Clearing Banks Association, Nathaniel Benaby, is calling the current situation a crisis. Jasmine Bonamy reports.
Chairman of the Clearing Banks Association, Nathaniel Benaby, revealing more about the mortgage relief plan, and he says not everyone will be helped. In fact, 3,000 Bahamians will not be able to benefit from the program. But Benaby said all member banks are fully participating in the plan and are also committed to making it a top priority. The plan is a key element of the government's platform and has been met with heated criticism, originally calling for a write-off of 100% of unpaid interest for Bahamians facing foreclosure. According to central bank statistics, as of July 31, 2012, total private sector loans totaled $6.2 billion, and mortgages represent $3 billion, or 50%. Those statistics also indicate that mortgages in arrears over 90 days total $460 million. Benaby says based on a rough estimate by clearing banks, it's projected that 800 to 1,000 homeowners could benefit under the plan. Speaking candidly, he said that would leave 3,000 plus mortgagees without help.
The reality is the mortgage relief plan cannot and will not help everyone. The global economic recession has had an adverse impact on many families. Between 2007 and 2011, the economic recession was severe, and these were very difficult years for many Bahamian families.
Benaby says there are many legitimate reasons why mortgages are in default, and banks are looking at each situation on a case-by-case basis to determine how best to help Bahamians keep their homes. He adds that besides the recession, separations and divorces also played major roles in default mortgages. Benaby explains.
On this question of separation and divorce, we see that as a major factor contributing to delinquencies. The example is the husband and wife would have applied, they would have qualified with two salaries. They're divorced, separated, both walk away. Neither party would want to honor the obligation, or even if they would wish to honor the obligation, their single income alone cannot afford to meet the mortgage payment.
After a different version of the plan was first introduced, top rating agency Moody's called the plan a credit negative, saying it displayed a lack of commitment to bringing down the national debt. Moody's estimated that the proposal would cost the government $250 million. But Benaby says the Clearing Banks Association is completely behind the retweaked version.
CBA was not engaged to produce a plan. The CBA was consulted, but in terms of producing a formal plan, we were not engaged, we were not requested to produce a formal plan. The plan we are looking at is what we have been asked to discuss and produce. And so CBA really cannot comment on what was in the public domain prior to the general elections. I mean, the government has to really address that.
To totally qualify under the mortgage plan, holders must have maintained good credit history prior to June 2008. But Benaby said Bahamians must be willing to do some things differently and have better fiscal discipline as it relates to spending. Banks will start taking applications on September 10th, and the plan ends March 10th, 2013. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Bonamy.
Well, since the Progressive Liberal Party took office in May, many business owners say they've noticed a serious lag time between the submission of work permits and receiving approvals. But the ministry responsible today explained the delays and said it is determined to address the problem. Sieska Adderley reports.
Immigration and Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell admits that the work permits process is taking longer than it's supposed to, but it's an issue that his ministry is looking to address.
With over 400 work permit applications in the backlog and a 3-month waiting period on the processing of work permits, as hundreds come through the Department of Immigration each week, some business owners say the wait time is having a negative impact, and Mitchell notes that he feels their pain. He says even putting policy positions to put Bahamians first aside, there is an inordinate level of inefficiency when it comes to the processing of the permits on a human level.
There's a full understanding from the political level and throughout the department of what the importance is of immigration, the Department of Immigration, to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And there is no effort to stymie the growth of the business community, and the department will act and is acting to seek to do the best it can for the Bahamian community given the job that it has to do.
And not only work permits are affected, citizenship applications, spousal permits, and permanent residency applications have also been dragged into the prolonged process. But Mitchell says that some promises to process applications in a hasty manner because they might impact the financial services sector were perhaps not realistic.
There was a policy with regard to permanent residents, economic permanent residents, which said that if someone invested $1.5 million, the application was supposed to be turned around in 21 days. From what I see now, that is overambitious. And we have spoken to the financial services sector to say that we're not trying to walk back from any of the previous decisions made by the previous administrations to help the financial services sector. But the department has to be realistic in what it can actually accomplish.
Mitchell didn't say when the backlog would be cleared or specifically state how the process would be speeded up, but he has committed to focus his attention on the issue.
We are pledged to troubleshoot this issue, to be sensitive to the needs of the consuming public, which includes the business community, but it also includes many, many ordinary citizens who have to get applications approved for live-in maids, for handymen, gardeners, for caregivers. So we have to troubleshoot to be sure that we can respond in a timely fashion to their applications. And I regret the fact that it has come to the point where there's a public outcry over this.
For Business Matters, I'm Sieska Adderley.
The government is also hoping to drastically reduce the wait time for work permits by putting the system online as part of the e-government platform. Director of Information Technology June Cawley says $250,000 has been budgeted to set up the system, which will allow for the application of permits, checking the status of applications, and when to pick up permits that are approved.
This project will be an e-service within the government's portal. So we're using the existing e-government framework. It is already connected to our back-end applications, so it will drastically cut down a lot of the time you take to go through the process as is now. The users will do a lot of the data entry because they will be requesting online. They would also be providing the scanned documents online. And immigration will be asking the business community to use this application instead of coming in with physical documents. So this is one of the things we're looking at in terms of helping them with the processes and also reducing the turnaround time.
Cawley says the government hopes to have the work permit system online within the next 6 to 8 months. Well, over the past few months, there have been several Bahamian women who worked as high-end domestic caretakers who claim that they and many other Bahamian women have been displaced by Filipino women. They also claim many of these women are often accompanied by their husbands who displace other Bahamian workers. Mitchell says this isn't the first time he's heard about this trend. However, he says it's tricky to navigate the issue. He also noted that in a macro sense, people tend to want Bahamians to come first, but when it comes to their own choices, that isn't always the case.
Everybody says they're for Bahamianization. As soon as policies are implemented, which seek to implement that as a policy, you have the phone call that says, but my housekeeper needs to get an exception to this, or my gardener needs to get an exception to that. And so you have to balance those factors. Now, there are some who argue that you should not dictate who can be a housekeeper in your home, that you have, just as you have a right with your children and to choose your wife and so on and so forth, that these are personal issues, someone working in your home. And so there's that argument counterbalancing the argument on displacement of Bahamian domestics. But for me personally, it's a struggle to accommodate that when young men and women in this country are out of work. The number of applications that we receive for gardeners, handymen, domestics. And my advice is that these, and this even comes from the Department of Labor, is that Bahamians simply won't take those jobs at the prices offered.